This is Scott Becker with the Becker Business and Becker Private Equity Podcast. We're thrilled today to be joined by Brad Wolfe. Brad's got a fascinating thought process around artificial intelligence and capital allocation and a lot more. Also an operational CFO, a Northwestern Kellogg graduate. I live about 5 minutes from Kellogg, so I'm very familiar, or at least from Northwestern. Brad, take a moment and tell us about yourself and this concept of AI strategy is a capital allocation concept.
Yeah, no, happy to. Thanks for that intro. Yeah, I've been a long time CFO for private equity for the last 25 years, and a CFO longer than that for small cap, mid cap, large cap, public companies, private equity backed companies. I used to practice law a long time ago and did M&A work. I also ran a consulting Office of CIO, Office of CFO, process improvement firm for about 4 years before becoming a CFO. And technology has been near and dear to my heart. And I think technology underscores all the finance functions. And I think AI has just accelerated things and issues that were present before AI showed up. AI has just moved those to the point where you really can't ignore them. And I think AI is a capital allocation. It's not a technology, so it's not really shouldn't be treated like a technology, and it shouldn't be treated like a compliance. Though it does have compliance and technology aspects, it's really capital allocation, which means you have to do a return on investment, and you have to judge it versus all the other capital allocations you'll make inside your company.
And talk about what are you most focused on and excited about, Brad? What sort of gets you going in the morning? Tell us about the Wolfe Pack, and are you a Wildcat fan?
Yeah, I'm definitely a Wildcat fan. I would love to see the Wildcats do well. That has not been a history of them doing well, but I hope springs eternal. What excites me is I think I've spent the last 25 years trying to get the lead to cash process, the order to cash process automated using CRMs, billing systems, ERPs, and data warehouses. AI is finally going to automate the entire lead to cash process or order to cash process. It's also going to fundamentally change the way that data flows. And because of that, today's CFO really cannot no longer be a backward looking, kind of waiting to report what happened. You have to move up the stack and you have to be actively involved in the setup of AI, the data architecture, because you're certifying all the numbers that are coming out. And the thing with AI, because of its speed and its power, the ability to create liability and create problems is exponentially bigger in the world of AI. And as a CFO who has to sign, agreements for debt, equity, if you're in a public company, public signings, audits, et cetera, you're on the hook to make sure that those numbers are accurate and they accurately reflect the financial condition of the company, which means you have to be involved on the front end because that's where the numbers are being generated. That's where the liability is occurring.
Thank you. And talk a little bit about what's going right with AI in the CFO role. And talk a little bit about your day-to-day. Are you an outsourced CFO, full-time CFO? What do you do to sort of what do you do day to day?
Yeah. So I'm an operating partner for 3 private equity groups. I will come in and be an interim CFO if they need it. I also work very extensively with our portcos on AI and AI strategy. I run our shared services model. Our shared service model was really set up to test AI, and so we've tested. I won't say we've tested everything, but we've tested a lot of the automation on the lead to cash, including all the accounting, ERP, billing, et cetera. It's exciting times because it's going to, like I said, fundamentally change the world and fundamentally change the accounting process. I think what's misunderstood in the market is people think accounting is closing the books and reconciling, AP and AR, which it is. But you have to understand 70% of the data that comes into an accounting system comes upstream. And that data, if that data isn't accurate, it doesn't have data integrity, data accuracy, your accounting department spends the vast majority of its time reconciling other systems and reconciling data that they don't control. What AI is doing is it's moving the entire lead to cash process into the control structure because AI makes instantaneous decisions. And the final point I'll say is, for the longest time, last 50 years, have been three systems that have been running. There's been a sales system, an operating system, and a financial system. And they ran at different speeds, and therefore you could have them run differently and you can have them reconcile. What AI does is AI is compressing those three systems into one, and they run real time, which means there is no reconciling what happened after the fact. There is setting the controls up on the front end and monitoring the system to make sure that the data output is accurate at the point of entry. And that's really exciting. I've been trying to do this for 25 years. It's finally going to happen, but it fundamentally changes your work. And I think that's what the next 5 years will be about. And I think the final thing I say, they say, well, we've automated this. Claude came out with so-and-so. Yeah, what Claude automated, or what they're talking about, is automating like 10 or 15% of what a finance function actually does. And the reality is, without the other 85%, those automations are tools that you could use, but they don't automate the function. And when they say that, there's a lot of hype out there, and the hype definitely exceeds the reality of where we are.
Thank you very, very much. Take a second on a great CFO today. What is a great CFO today to how do they contribute when you think about operating at the top of their business as a CFO? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's the same as it's been in the past. It's just accelerated. A great CFO is strategic, and he's on the front end. Difference between being a controller and being a CFO is a CFO is a business partner to the CEO, to the board, on the front end, looking into the future and saying, what if? 6 months, 18 months, 36 months from now, 5 years from now, based on a wide variety of variables, what are the possibilities, and how should we set up our capital structure? How should we do our capital allocations to take advantage of opportunities and avoid risks? That's been the job for a long, long time. The speed at which you have to be involved now, it used to be that, transactions move more slowly, et cetera. Now AI is making it to where everything is going to be real time, which means your CFO has to be on the front end, has to be involved in the architecting of the data accuracy, data integrity, has to set up the controls. The control surface now is going to be 100 or 1,000x greater. The risks are going to be much greater. That's going to affect your insurance, your D&O. It's going to affect the value of your company. If you're in the private equity world and you're preparing for an exit, getting all of that squared away and ready for exit is going to have a huge impact on your valuation, both positively or negatively, depending on how you do it. So I think it's a very exciting time. I think for the CFOs out there that look at their job more as a backward looking, I think that those jobs will come to an end. I don't think there's a future in that. But I think for the forward looking CFOs that are on the front end, which I've done my whole career, I think it's very exciting times. Lots of change coming, lots of things in the market, lots of hype in the market. Also, lots of people with lots of opinions. Final thing I'll say is as revolutionary as AI is, AI fundamentally does not change the fiduciary duties or the control structure of a CFO. It changes the way you institute those. But I see people all the time come out and say, we have to come up with a whole new corporate governance, whole new controls. No. You use exactly the same things you've always used. You just apply them, just like we've done with every other technology that's come out in the last 50 years. You apply the same standards, the same rules to the new technology. You're not going to invent a brand new control system. In fact, you can't do that because it's dictated by GAAP, it's dictated by statute, it's dictated by law. So you have to learn to apply it. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I deal with it every day. I do a lot of consulting, and I have people say all kinds of crazy stuff to me, and that's just incorrect.
Thank you. And when you talk to CEOs, how do you talk to them about thinking about the financial function in the business the CFO role, how much of it is FP&A versus just getting the books closed correctly, getting accurate advice? How do you think about advising CEOs on hiring CFOs?
Yeah, well, I think you've got to look at things as kind of 1, 3, 5 year time frames, right? In the immediate term, things are changing, but the job remains the same. As far as the job goes, the closing the books is a function of three things. It's a function of automating your lead to cash process, which is going to happen, but it's going to take time. It's a function of having data integrity, data accuracy, which means clean data, which means good processes that you have to control. And then you can put AI on top of it. I think the biggest thing I say to CEOs is I've been in the lower middle market now for 20 years. So lower middle market's $500 million or less for me. You can't put AI on top of bad processes and bad data. Or you can, but if you do, all you do is you get more bad data, more bad reports that look very, very good faster. So one of the things is trying to ground them in this is more of a marathon than a sprint, and you have to prepare for where AI is taking you, and it's going to be a 3 to 5 year journey. And then I think what's going to happen is the close process itself is going to become it's going to move up. Meaning, instead of closing the books and getting your financials, 5 or 7 days later, you're going to get financial information day one, right? That's going to come out. As far as FP&A, the AI makes the production of FP&A almost instantaneous. What it doesn't do, though, is it doesn't tell you what you should really focus on and what it really means. And that's where the fun part is for the FP&A. I think FP&A will become, half the job. The other half the job is going to be the accuracy of the information, the data architecture, the controls, all the inputs. If you look at it as a machine, it's got inputs and then it functions, it's got outputs. I think finance is going to be focused primarily on making sure the inputs are accurate, making sure the machine works correctly. And then when the outputs come out, you're going to be able to produce almost infinite outputs, but that's of no value to you. So you're going to have to determine what are the key outputs, what are the key KPIs, what are the key things that you're going to really want to see. And I think it's going to collapse. The FP&A function is going to become the analytical arm for the entire organization, because AI collapses everything together. So there will not be different analysts in different groups. I think there'll just be an analytical group. I think that's where we're headed. I think it's going to be exciting times. More change than I've seen in my career.
Literally remarkable. And Brad, take a moment and tell people where they can learn about you, how they could connect with you. Tell us a little bit about where people could reach you if they want your advice or help, if you're in what you do.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you so much. You can visit my website, which is wolfepacks.com. My contact information is there. You can email me, you can call me, or there's a sign up there if you want to talk to me. I do a lot of advising for lower middle market companies, private equity groups. Spend a lot of time with sponsors and boards advising them. And I've got about 50 packs packs I do now, because it depends on the topic and the board what we want to talk about. And I'd say for the first time in my career, almost everything is changing. Everything's changing all at once. But foundationally, the precepts of how you run a CFO function, the concepts, the principles remain the same. The way you do it is very, very different, but the principles remain the same. And I think it's going to change the rest of the organization. So, it is changing the rest of the organization. So that's my advice to the CEOs. And sometimes, I think this amount of change, people have to absorb it in stages. So I can tell you where we're going to be 5 years from now, or where I think we'll be 5 years from now. But sometimes I think people have to absorb that over time. And I think it's going to be a 5 years of change for the economy, not only just the CFO function.
I think that's really well stated, this concept that it's going to be adopted over time and not all at once. I just think that is so right on. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. What a pleasure to visit with you. Incredible what you do, Brad, and go Wildcats. Thank you so much for joining us.
Go Wildcats, you bet. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thank you.